Warm welcome to all of you in the panel discussion. For the panel discussion, Cyber Collaboration Industry, Startups and Academia, case study of how this has worked, we have eminent panelists with us. I welcome all the panelists. From academia, we have Dr. Chittaranjan Hota, Professor, Computer Science and Engineering Department, BITS Pilani, Hyderabad, and has over 30 years of academic research and administrative experience in Indian and universities abroad. We have representation from startup, Mr. Vivek Shenoy, CTO, Cunolabs and angel investor. Cunolab is leading global player in quantum security and it is IIT Madras incubated startup. Our next guest is Mr. Meenu Singhal, Vice President Industry Automation at Schneider Electric. Mr. Meenu Singhal has a rich experience over 26 years in the field of automation. This session will be moderated by Mr. Shivarama Krishnan, who is partner and leader cybersecurity PwC India. Over to you, Mr. Shivarama.
Thanks, Shravani. It's welcome to all of you. I think it's going to be a good session with a mix of academia and the startup plus industry veterans coming together. We all know it has been always known fact that the only way the industry can grow is an effective collaboration between thought leaders which emanates out of academia and willingness to experiment and put together into practice which comes out of the startup, and then willingness to take that once proven experiences to a scale that comes with the larger organizations. So we have all three of them come together. One of the constant comments or a feedback that we all get is in India, we're not necessarily the collaboration between the academia, startup and the larger companies have not been as effective as some of the advanced countries like US or Israel for that matter. So let us hear from the panelists here. What do they think? How do we think that we can improve to become one of the league in the top league when it comes to cybersecurity? Let me start with Professor Hota. Having come from the academia, where does he think, how does academia plays a role, and where does he think academia can improve or enhance? And how does people like us should view to use academia effectively in the journey of making this cybersecurity? It's a leading nation in cybersecurity. Over to you, Dr. Hota. Hello?
You are on mute, Dr. Hota.
Thank you. So while we have collaborations with few of the top-notch academia with leading industries in India, we see every now and then there are again hiccups or issues in terms of producing right set of engineers who can go and work in the industry in the platform which they need. So we are not again in an environment like European nations or American establishments where we have limited exchanges or collaborations with industry. If I have to give my own example, let's say I have been getting funds from few of them. Let's say TCS is one who have funded, let's say, multiple research scholars for my research. I have got, I think, a good amount of funding from Intel, then Progress Software and Cisco. So beyond these 3 to 4, let's say, I have not been able to go and reach out to other industries to get, let's say, research funding. So most of our academia, leaving maybe some top 10 academic institutions in India, rest all people are not able to collaborate to a greater extent. The reason being the things that we teach in our academic institutions are not at par, or maybe it is slightly outdated or obsolete, or maybe once a student graduates from these academic institutions, he has to work for, let's say, 1 to 2 years to establish himself in an industry, doing something good for the industry through which industry can generate revenue. So most of the work, I think, in IT sectors, we have succeeded to some extent, but not in other areas of our industry. But over last 5 to 6 years, because of the efforts that current government is putting through, we have been seeing a lot of startups coming up. There are a lot of, I think, activities which have been going on between these academia and industry. Maybe one such activity is what we are doing today. So when the academicians feel that they can take some courses or some subjects similar to the finishing school concept in US, which will be a motivating factor for industry professionals or industry owners, they would love to invest on the academia side. So I think we need to wait for some more years to see that linking coming up, through which we can see greater level of interaction between academia and industry.
Thank you, Dr. Hutta. I'll come back to your specific questions around research in particular. But before that, let me go into the next panelist. Vivek, you set up a startup in a research labs in IIT, and I've looked at it. One of the common comment that we all receive is that the strength of startups emanates out of the very strong research foundation that the academic institution lays. From there, many of the new ideas get converted to commercialized and tested for a commercial purposes and matures itself as a business. What do you see the Indian context if we presume that hypothesis is right? How well the collaboration between the startups and the academic institution when it comes to advanced research happens? Or should we do something more?
Yeah. So first, let me start with some happy news. CUNO Labs is actually an excellent collaboration between academia and a set of entrepreneurs, and that has really worked well. But unfortunately, I have to say that this is a one-off case. I haven't seen too many of these such collaboration happening between academia and entrepreneurs or startups, and particularly in high-tech areas. And I would even go down to saying not even high-tech, but just even trying to build reasonably world-class products. We have not been very successful in this collaboration, and I think there's a long way to go. Maybe I don't want to make too many assumptions about why such a gap exists between industry and academia and why there is so little collaboration. I would like to hear from other people as well before I make my comments. I really want to, and I'm looking forward to a far more collaborative effort between the two pillars of industry.
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. Maybe this is a question which I'm going to pose it to Meenu. Meenu, one of the things that I keep hearing, because when I speak to my college mates who are now professors and overseas, etc., one common underlying phenomena, which Dr. Hutta also somewhere referred it, phenomena that I hear is that there's a lot of funds and the industry issues being handed over to academia for research with the funds, so that the professors in the advanced countries, developed countries, have an ability to think over and tries to put together problem resolution. When it comes to India, one of the common things that we hear from academia is that not many industries come forward with a problem that requires a deeper research by the institutions, and thereafter it is being followed through the fundings as well. Why do you think this phenomena of disconnect that exists between what our Indian academic institutions does vis-a-vis the expectations from the industry? Is something that we should be focusing on to do as a companies or the government?
Yeah, Mr. Sivaram, I think it's a very valid point and observation which you have come up through when we talk about the way the collaboration is happening and within India compared to global. There's always there's a difference. Multiple reasons, as rightly pointed out by Mr. Hutta and Vivek also, that yes, when we look at industries, when we look at colleges, when we look at the startups, India is a land of startups. we have to have look at the curriculum which is in the global universities. The curriculum on the global universities start asking for a lot of industrial experiences right from the first or second year of their association with the institutes for the students. So this is what we have been looking forward. Can we make those changes happen within our country? I see these things are happening. Previously, when people like us, we were in colleges, our internship were 6 week or 4 week, one internship, and that's it. But now I have seen people have gone in for 6 months of internship, 3 or 2 sets of compulsory internship which are happening, which is one step forward, a small step. I'm repeating that as a small step forward. Industries are open. I'm talking about industry like Schneider. We are very open to have interns coming in from different segments and sectors, and we approach our R&D center. So just to give a synopsis, we have the world third largest R&D center in India for Schneider, which is in Bangalore. And in that R&D center, we have a global cybersecurity lab, which is being created. We invite people to come in and participate in those labs, but it's a matter of communication. Does it reach right people? Sometimes it's not. Funding and the collaboration with colleges and startups, we promote startups. So as companies like Schneider, which is approximately 2 billion euros in India, around 15,000 crore in India, we have been promoting a lot of startups from the colleges people as well as people who come in, and we get them collaborated with the investors also. So that is something which is happening. To an extent, we promote innovation very heavily in our own field, but not all the industries do that. Industries which are going to do that are those who have quantum of their businesses coming in from country like India and who have facilities of R&D and manufacturing within India, which we have. Just to let you know, so we have signed up a NDA. We have been working with IIT Kanpur for cybersecurity. So we have been working collaboratively. No one can do it all alone. And we promote together all the pieces of academia, of startups, and of industries to work together. But every one of us will have to take the step out. Today, when I look at people at the hiring side from industries, everyone is looking for an experienced person to be hired. How can a fresher come out with experience? Can we change the way industries look at experience to be converted to the internship experience which they have been having into the industries? So these are things which we are also collaborating. So I was with the Punjab Technical Board and the Government of Punjab and of the MSME boards, and we have been trying to include these kind of curriculum in the colleges. If we can do that, this can be changed. And companies like Schneider, I'm talking on behalf of not Schneider, but I talk about the automation companies like Schneider, Siemens, ABB, Rockwell. I have worked with Rockwell for a longer period of time before Schneider. They have very open philosophies of promoting the young talent with innovative mindset, digital mindset. And now when we look at cybersecurity, it is a fund which we have available with us. It's a matter of how the fund can be taken up by people. We are ready. Ask for it. Have some credibility and come and say, yes, we can do it together. We are ready to risk. So that is what we are. And we look forward for the changes to happen within the industry. And as the IIoT Industry 4.0 is taking up a good phase, every product is getting connected and communicating. So when they are transferring data, when they are talking to the devices, we need more and more software professionals. We need more and more IT. We need more and more cybersecurity people to be more innovative, low-cost connectivities, low-cost cybersecurity, that trusting of data. We are looking forward for the masses from India to come forward and to contribute to it. If we have those things, we would be very, very open to contribute.
Well
I hope
said.
it answers some of your concern.
Well said, Minu. It's more than answers. We need to act on it, but it's a good idea to emanate and think through, because we are with the DSCI and MIT coming together. Government is also getting into action. Yeah, it's a long journey. It's a good start. May take longer. Dr. Hutta, I mean, I'm coming back to you now because I said I will start with the research. One of the biggest complaints I keep hearing about Indian educational institutions is that we are overly teaching focused and very less research focused. that leading to a excessive, time being spent by the professors on teaching in the classrooms rather than carrying out a collaborative research, which in turn results in industry not being able to exploit the best of the best intellects that we have in the institutions to resolve some of the industry problems. How far it is true? How do we manage with the current UGC regulations, higher research, and of course within the budget constraints which all of you operate on? How does it work in your community to promote the research?
Thank you. So I think I will just add few viewpoints to what the first question was to
Sure. Yeah.
both the colleagues in the panel. Let's say when we talk of industry collaborating with academia, BITS Pilani, I'm actually in BITS Pilani over last 20 years. So I've seen from internal operations of BITS Pilani, we have a program called as Practice School. So this Practice School is actually an industry sponsored activity. So students of BITS Pilani actually get around even 1.5 to 2 lakhs per month as a stipend during those 6 months internship. American Express, Microsoft, these people actually take and pay this much high stipends. So almost every student goes for 6 months internship to an industry. And when he goes to industry to do this internship or practice school, we get around 40 to 45% conversion into PPO, replacement offers. So that reduces our placement load when students come into the campus. So almost anyone who is above 8 CGPA, at the end he bags one PPO and also another dream offer from the campus. So these are all I'm saying around 13, 14, 15 lakhs and above salary per year. So industry is actually getting good input from these graduates. Otherwise, they'll not pay this much and then keep them in their industry for a longer time. Even Nutanix is directly taking as software engineer 3 to a fresher from BITS Pilani. I have seen over, let's say, last 3 to 4 years it is happening, and even paying 64 to 70 lakhs per year. So students with their capabilities, they're able to deliver things which company wants. And that's why there is a good, I think, interaction, or maybe from the job perspective. So they are all doing good there in that. But yes, I will agree to both the colleagues, like collaboration with teachers, professors, with the industry, that is minimal, because industry's focus is on hiring talent. That's why they are investing on them, and but they are also doing good things through that. So some of us also get chance or maybe opportunities through our those practice school students. We also do some sort of problem solving of those industries, but it is not again a great in number. That number is around 5 to 10% from a population of, let's say, 1,000 faculty members throughout our 3 campuses of BITS, Pilani, Goa, and Hyderabad. Now I'll come to the other aspect, the question that you asked, like so teaching is teaching and research. How does, or how should we balance these two while staying within the regulations of UGC, so that we can contribute to the research or innovation that is happening? So I personally have gone through a phase where 7-8 years back, we were all predominantly a teaching institute. We were teaching heavily. Let's say I have been teaching 3 to 4 courses per semester in Pilani when I was there in 2000. But now, over last 6 to 7 years, after I think we all started ranking ourselves, floating different government-led projects, right? Even DETI, METI, DBT, DST, these government organizations, they all started even giving generously the funds to different academic institutions to promote research. So when all these things happen, there is actually a mindset amongst the faculty members who are probably mid-age or old or new people who are coming from with an abroad experience. So they all are coming with a mindset that I need to, let's say, publish in 2 to 3 good tier 1 conferences, 1 or 2 journals, and I need to showcase a prototype product, which maybe there is a buyer in industry or government sector, and let me spend my own time, whichever I am getting saved from my other activities, and develop something on this. But that number in academia, maybe this number is slightly higher in let's say old 5 IITs, but not in maybe everywhere. Let's say we also have similar 10 to 15% out of the total population who do both teaching as well as research. But teaching we cannot again ignore, because we are all operating with a scale. So when we admit, let's say, 1,000 students to a campus of 200 acres, right, running some 200 to 300 courses, and those students are also paying higher fees to us, through which we actually manage our operations, maintenance, and all that. We can't completely ignore that. So I have seen over last 7 to 8 years, or maybe 10 years, the academic load on teachers have not gone to that level where they cannot do research. So it's basically a mindset. Somebody should know that yes, if I have visited 3 countries abroad, or if I have gone to an industry, or gone to an IIT, or gone to an NIT, right, to deliver a talk on my research area which I am doing, unless you have been doing that work, you can't speak, right? People will easily understand that you are not having stuff through which you can innovate something, or you can do something good. That is actually peer review or peer evaluation. Once we do all those, we feel a pleasure out of that activity. But yes, academicians actually have to do much more to take that level slightly higher than the current rate at which they are doing research. But I would not, I will be positive on that aspect going forward, because of, I think, this NEP is also coming up, National Education Policy, where things will all improve, where we will be, I think this NIRF, right, the ranking which have come over last 7, 8 years, that also have made people realize that yes, I need to have, sorry, I need to have some standing, not only academics, because I can't say that yes, I am a great teacher within my college or within my university, where students are getting a lot of things for me, and then they are earning a good salary in the industry, or they are contributing to the industry to a greater extent. No. While doing that, I also have to build my own profile. Also, I have to build the brand of my university or college where I'm working. People should know that yes, there is a research, there is a group of people who are working on innovative products. They can even take those products or prototypes to, let's say, international market, or collaborate with some foreign universities and showcase their competencies. Unless we do those to some level of expertise, we will not be able to survive, or we will not be able to, I think. So almost all our 7th pay regulations, 6th pay regulation, and whatever now NEP has given, the performance appraisal and all, every institute is putting this research as a component. You can't go away without doing research. So minimum you need to publish 2 to 3 papers. Minimum you have to go and give a talk outside. And if you are, let's say, 40, 50 or 60 aged professor or academician, you need to have 2 to 3 PhD students whom you must have given degrees. So staying positive, I don't think that we should see, as much as we can match our teaching with our research, we can bring in something from our teaching to our research, or we can take something from our research to the classrooms. Our efforts will be minimal, reduced, and we can contribute. So I think we are going in a positive direction, and we will be able to do it while staying at the scale. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Uda. Vivek, the one of the thing which I keep hearing in amongst the startup community is that there are multiple ways the incubation centers in the campuses become successful. One way is to have experimentation center, the better innovative brains innovate from the zero. Other set is that there is research driven IP that exists, but it is never tested for commercialization or getting converted into products and solutions, etc. Third is guided research that lead to a product and commercialization. And we keep hearing about all the 3 categories, but in India, is predominantly we have created good incubation centers where the better brains, seamlessly tries to do things on its own. But when it comes to IP, we still have a lot of challenges. How true it is, and what are those areas in which Indian ecosystem needs to work on it to improve to the global scale? We might have started something, but which are the areas that we need to work on? Because you also mentioned about there are hiccups, very few success stories that we have. Vivek?
You're on mute, sir.
Sorry, I was on mute. So there are two, three things. One is, I mean, you touched upon the right things. Now, if I look at incubation centers, they very quickly degenerate into physical spaces for people to
Yeah.
operate. Very quickly, I think there is the interest in helping these startups, and startups need all kinds of help, from financial help to just managing accounts, to how to structure equity and negotiation skills and all kinds of stuff. It's not just technical research that a startup needs. But these centers quickly become the spaces for people to operate in, maybe a low cost space. And that's about it. And I really don't know why it does become like that. One of the options, or one of the thoughts I have, is that between research and building a product or launching something in the market, the difference between engineering and research is probably 10%, and the rest is head banging in the lab that you have to do to get the product out. So there's a fundamental difference in philosophy between an entrepreneur and a academician. At one level, the academician wants to publish papers, make sure that there's something, a publishable result that is available. And on the other side, the entrepreneur wants to make sure that a viable product is in the market. I don't care what the research is, but just help me sell this thing. And that's something that we've seen. Professor Anil Prabhakar is one of our founders. So, with no disrespect, I do respect him a lot. But his interest is to make sure that there is a viable theory and a proof of concept that can be shown, and a paper is published. Whereas we deal with completely different matrices and what we need to do out of Professor Anil Prabhakar's work. So I think both sides need to understand where the other stops and the second part of engineering takes over. If both sides don't agree on this, look, the professor's work stops at X, and thereon the entrepreneur's work start, and there is, of course, the line is gray, but there's collaboration on that line, then this very quickly falls apart. So I think there has to be, for this to be successful, first an understanding of what both sides need, and this has to be a lot of empathy between the two parts of the equation. The second aspect is, most of these institutes, and the better ones, have a lot of labs and test equipment and all kinds of stuff that every startup would need for its purpose in terms of lab space and so on. I'm not talking about a pure software venture which would require much less infrastructure for testing, but something that combines hardware, software, mechanical design, thermal, all of that stuff, that require a lot of infrastructure to be able to test these products. Now, just to access these labs, it becomes very difficult. There's no one way to, let's say I need a 5 gigahertz spectrum analyzer, which costs a bomb in the market. I can't buy it. I can't even rent it because it's such a niche equipment. But IISc, which is like 2 kilometers away, has 5 of them, but I can't get to it.
So, maybe I'm just a quick question, Vivek. Is it DSC as this initiative, if they were put together, all the labs across the country available with the kind of equipments available, and if they can facilitate access to their startups, would that be a great help?
I will be falling at your feet if you could pull that off.
I'm a moderator. For me to ask a question, so Vinayak and Rama has to act on it. But I just thought, since this came up, this could be one of the great initiatives to at least facilitate an access if you're able to have asset inventorization first done. Correct. And then if we can facilitate access to it.
So
Even I was in.
there is a defined method and a reasonably
Okay.
easy method to access equipment
Mm.
and test facilities.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is there is not even enough expertise within the company to figure out what to test.
Yeah.
And that is where the professors or the academicians, the research help comes in to figure out what to test and who has that equipment with which we could test. For example, in our domain, we have in the quantum security domain, we have to run quantum nest tests. Now, these are very difficult tests. It's not easy to prove uncertainty principle.
Yeah.
There's no setup that can be done. Now, and even if I have to prove some amount of quantumness that I can reasonably demonstrate, then I need equipment that's worth a few crores that which we cannot afford. Now, if this collaboration has to be stronger, we can't wait for a big bang event to say, look, or a government policy to be put in place saying that thou shalt work together. That doesn't work. Right? So we have to take baby steps towards making sure that this collaboration happens.
So I just presupposed for Vivek and Rama. Sorry for that. Minu, another question that that keeps coming back is that till 5-6 years back, 5-6 years back, we always had a question around how do we make the students employable, industry ready, and so on and so forth. So there is an amount of effort that has gone in. UGC said that you can have last 6 months industrial training. They have introduced a curriculum with the summer training and grading for it, and so on and so forth. The curriculums have undergone a change where industry can collaborate to arrive at it, etc., etc. Next wave is certainly obviously to move forward from industry employability to industry-led research in academic institutions. If that has to happen, what are the things that you think as a industry veteran, the academia should start focusing on it so that you'll be attracted to invest in for those kind of researches? I mean, I'm sure Schneider Electric might be spending millions of dollars with academic institutions overseas. If you have to divert some of this money into Indian institutions to do a research as much as what you tries to do in France or anywhere else across the world, what are the things the Indian academic institution should do to make it itself attractive?
So first of all, to complement your statement, we do invest a lot of I would say
thank you.
crores.
Sorry, I just
in
generally
crores
I'm saying,
in India
yeah.
with the academicias, and we are willing to invest more, subject to the conditions that we figure out, and the right balance between the academic and the businesses can be worked around. And now, really, we talk about innovation. So over last few years, we see that the global industries have recognized that taking on, if I talk about, say, cybersecurity, or if I talk about digitization, transfer of data, we have been taking risk by stepping one step further again and again. But now we are looking forward, and to answer a question, what will we look forward to invest in? We are looking forward for open, collaborative, and transparent bodies. They should be having a focus on strengthening people, processes, and technologies. So combination of these things can be done by academicias as well as with the startups, where we can have people and technologies combined together, and jointly we can work as manufacturers or as the provider of technology along with the investors and with the colleges to work. And that is driving a cultural change. We are willing to drive this cultural change in the country. And maybe just to let you know, and we are really pleased that the Indian academic bodies have stepped forward, and we are looking forward for working openly and collaborative with them. So, few founding members and many other
funding from government. Now, I think, again, if we, as they also said, that we can't completely rely on funding from government, I think there should be a matchmaking between industry and the academia. So industry should also look for who are those people in academia who have that capability, or at least the eagerness to go beyond what they are doing and then spend, let's say, their regular hours or off hours, right? Come and talk about their work on the industry premises, and then mix these industry experts also in their own coursework, which they take in the campuses. In my, I think, European visits, I have seen, let's say, courses like advanced networks, courses like distributed systems. If the professor is teaching a course, which I was also participating in the delivery, at least every week, 1 or 2 industry professionals also will come. They will take 1 hour of the lecture, but that will be again on the subject or the topics which have been listed in the handout or in the curriculum. And there will be industry visits by these students, and this industry professional also will be delivering 20 to 30% to the entire course coverage. So I think the moment we get into all these, I'm sure that we will be having much more collaborative work between industry and academia.
One question, Dr. Hutta, is that maybe I'm trying to pose a very direct question to you. What I hear from what Vivek and Meenu said is that our professors are good academicians, don't understand business value of their knowledge indirectly. That's what they're meaning. They do a research paper, after that they forget about it. Okay, if I wanted to interpret that, they are saying, you guys don't know value of yourself. And then you are just restricted yourself to the papers. That is hindering into the further advancement and development. Is there a fundamental shift that is needed amongst academia to think, how do we not only continue to do research, but how do we make it business relevant for our overall economic growth or industry as well?
Okay. So I think some of our challenges or problems in India is that support system, which is missing, which should glue the researcher or the professor with an industry. Let's say not many institutes in India, except top 5 or maybe 7%, they have somebody who, let's say, can help them in filing a patent, who can help them in, let's say, commercializing the prototype which they have produced, right? They might have shown it in some exhibition. They might have participated in a competition, winning that competition, showing the prototype. But to take it to the next level, we need to invest money on that. Right? That is again not in a small amount. And then there should be a backing or support by both industry as well as government, as well as the organization in which the professor is working. Right? So unless that happens, that part comes in, the professor cannot again go beyond thinking something, right? Because he is not simply researching on that area which he has showcased. So till he has showcased or demonstrated to a prototype level, beyond that, if he has to go, only few people are able to go. Those who are particularly, let's say, restricted, they are doing their work only on that domain. They have less other activities to do, right? They are not again venturing into different research areas. So unless we have that support structure, it will be again difficult for the professor or academician to take it to a product level. But however, if the idea on which he is working is a very small scale, right? Let's say I need to develop, let's say, a tool or maybe this COVID-19 predictions, right? In the initial 15-20 days, one of my friend from NIT Surathkal, he wrote me back a mail saying that, Professor, please look into this link. And I have bagged now at least 15 lakhs funding from government for predicting how many days COVID will remain in the in, let's say, southern part or in northern part or eastern part or western part in India, right? Then I think he was actually collecting data from some government websites, and then he had a machine learning model to do this. But now there are a lot of next level activities on this. So I don't know, or maybe unless we have that push from somebody, it is because that is an entrepreneurial mindset we should have. So today, if you have a very genius boy or an intelligent boy who works with me on a research, his interest is to code or to do the practical work. The moment it is done, he always will want to have a good reco from me and then do a 6 months internship from abroad or from IIC or from one of the IITs, and then go to UCLA or Georgia Tech to do his master's or PhD, right? So I think that's a brain drain. So we need to have some control or some check on that. But of course, over last 7-8 years, people from America are migrating back to India for different reasons or for our government policies. So we have to wait till we see a positive change in that.
Yeah. Mr. Sivarama, if you allow, I'm tempted to make 2 observations and
sure.
comment on this. Am I allowed?
Yeah, please,
Yes.
please.
So one thing I really appreciate the very right context which came out from Professor Hotta's discussion: application and knowledge. As rightly said, there is a lot of knowledge which is in the colleges, which is being taught. Students learn that, and he very rightly cited example of some of the global experiences which he has. Immediately, that is being coupled with the application of that knowledge in the industries, something which is really worth. And I'm really delighted that yes, if that is happening, what is the effort which we can make in? And I can commit you from industrial segment side that if you invite our people, we will be more than happy to send our people to colleges. I myself go to many colleges, whosoever invite, for giving those kind of application oriented sessions. We can't talk technology in terms of academics. Someone talks about Kirchhoff's law, probably I will say, guys, you know it better now how it works. But we can tell how this technology can really help manufacturers to make more money and to improvise the processes. So if a student start learning from that stage, that will be great. Second thing, second comment is about like IIT Kanpur having invested a lot into the labs which you have created, and we have also been working with IIT Kanpur on cybersecurity input. The communication of that capability within our institutes is that there with the industries in case they need a POC to be done, which is very readily available at IITK or at some other equivalent institute. And if these people don't know, somewhere we are missing. So we need a joint communication or an effort or a planning which can enable the industries to understand that I can hack a boiler and blow it by a small amount of the exercise in case your processors are vulnerable. So what is the stage at which you should start looking at cybersecurity? Not at this stage, but also at the component stage. And I have seen myself, I have witnessed this in IITK. The engineers were so well talented, they have shown me how they can literally blow a boiler within a few minutes. But when I called about of industries, when I talked to multiple industries, do they know what's the capability of IITK? They said, we need to really understand what's happening, and we don't know. So these are two things, and I couldn't resist myself talking about it because they're very relevant to the topic.
It's good. I think maybe now I'm going to pose you a very controversial question. I think since you touched this topic, one of the common complaints for many academicians have is that all these large corporates go and flood the money to some known devils. I'm saying, using the word loosely as an example. If you go and talk about IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, IIT Chennai, some more triple IT, Hyderabad, the 10 select institutes get excessive funds. They have access to the companies and knowledge as well as everything. But probably we have thousands of academic institutions who has equally a good academia, but poor access to people like you. How do we facilitate this spread enhances? Because we should be able to give an example of why one IIT Kanpur or Delhi or Chennai or Mumbai. I think every city should have something doing somewhere wonderful stuff. And we have that many colleges and academic institutions. What is lacking? How do we as an industry can come together and enhance this access?
So I acknowledge what you are saying is right. Something which is, if I take my example, if IITK and we are talking, one thing which is built up with the top institutes is trust.
Yeah, I understand.
So once trust is there, the confidence to pump in money and understanding that there will be, first of all, and trust is not only about whether they will be able to do it, whether they will be able to comply to the legal standards and the NDAs. So whatever they are developing with us, that remains with us. So the IPs will those things will also be trusted and managed. So that is one biggest thing which I see, which we miss in some of the colleges where people and not to name, but there are multiple institutes who get the, I would say, labs created for the purpose of showcasing to attract people, to attract students. Those labs are not even operational for last 10 years or 7 years. They don't even upkeep and maintain those labs. And we have at many, there are institutes there in UP Tech, UPTUs and in different Maharashtra and other, which we have funded 10 years back or 12 years back or 7 years back. We have gifted them the automation products. But when we visit them after 3 or 5 years, they say, it's there, but it's not working. Can you maintain it for us free of cost and come back? Guys, start using it. So that has, so they don't use it. But we are open. We are open, and any college which comes up with a confidence and a backup to showcase that, yes, I have experience, I have published multiple papers. We have people of that caliber, and teachers who are devoted with us. People like us will be ready to take our first step. And now the step is not only taken by companies like us, even our channel partners, our execution partners, we call it the distributors and the integrators. They have started tying up with these smaller colleges and smaller universities in the region and enabling them to create their labs, because we also want students should learn, and they should get practical exposure right from their college time. Not once they come out of college and say, oh, this is how actually a motor looks like. I have seen a motor with only this much, but now I'm seeing a motor which is more the size of the room. And then they really understand all the applications of industry, IoT. How many of us, we teach digital twins in our college times? And we realize digital twins and the entire fascia of secure connectivity is moving out of college. So we are very much willing, and we would be very happy to impart education also with our experts, to give funds and as well to give hardware and software for prototype development in case someone comes forward to us, with certainly some kind of a backup and support.
I think, thank you. It is encouraging, Minu. I'm going to ask this question again, little challenging and controversial to Vivek. While we keep saying that the academia, there is a big gap between academia and the startup or academia to institutions. One of the common complaint about academia is that most of the startup kids and the incubation center or businesses only focus on short-term money. They don't put energy, effort in making it complete and rigor that it requires to make it to work. So they just jump on from one to the other to the third one, without wait till the end of the cycle, whether it fails or succeeds.
Yeah.
How do you react to that situation?
It is the grim reality. So to do anything well takes a lot of effort. It is not easy.
Yeah.
If you have to build a decent enough product. So I have this very beautiful thing in mind of the Hero Honda ad about 20 years ago saying, fill it, shut it, forget it. So I want my products to be like that. Fill it, build it, ship it, and I don't even want to know anything about the product after that. I don't want a support call. I mean, I get a support call, there's something wrong with it, right? So to get anything to that level is very hard. Now, given a startup's pressure of revenue and building customer base and this and that, so you have to ship prematurely. You have to follow things that you wouldn't want to do if you were a bigger company. If you're a Schneider, you wouldn't do ever what a startup would do. Right? So we have to also be cognizant of the fact that a startup is under tremendous pressure every day. I used to run another startup about 10 years back, and every 15th of the month, I start my collection call saying, otherwise I can't pay salaries. Now, to get and it's a tiny startup, 20 people, but still I have to do it. I'm the technology guy. I'm the guy who writes code, and I'll do this collection call. So it's most often what happens is the academic institutes don't understand this kind of pressure. They don't have an appreciation of a day in the life of a startup, and obviously, the startup guys also don't appreciate a day in the life of a professor. It's very hard to be teaching, and then it's very hard to do research. The startup is driven by timelines and getting things out of the door, whereas a professor is not driven by the same kind of time pressure. Yeah, there's time pressure to finish a course, but there is no time pressure to finish a research, broadly speaking. So,
Okay.
so
It's,
was it diplomatic enough in your in my answer?
no, I was not expecting a diplomatic answer, but you managed it. You managed it well. I think I'll go back to the question on Minu. What are the thing the startup ecosystem sustenance comes on the ability for the large companies to keep absorbing, because that is what is giving the strength to the entire ecosystem, in a sense, because as a large company you may not be able to experiment, innovate, as he rightly mentioned. At times you have to have your own internal processes, far more stringent than the startups, whereas the startups gives you the platform post testing, absorb and grow. How do you see the Indian startup ecosystem for you? Because that will give a confidence for the entire value chain. Because we spoke quite a lot about academia, but I've asked you, very little question on how do big companies like yours look at startup ecosystem in India? What kind of absorption that you think is capable? Like in the Western market, 30-40% gets absorbed by the large companies. That's what gives the sustenance for those startup ecosystem people, or campus guys, or experienced people like Vivek, etc. So how do you see the Indian ecosystem?
So that was also one of my comment which I wanted to make upon
Sure.
Vivek's communication, that yes, we don't experience the same life of a startup, but we promote startups because we were willing to invest with them. We are willing to take them over as they start developing and growing up in their own premise which they are working. So we have a history of acquisitions, and there are multiple activities. So one is acquisition. There are multiple activities which we give as a subcontract to these startups to start working for us. Many of these startups in India, I'm talking in India, they are doing some or the other R&D operations for us. They are developing some PCBs, they are developing some kind of softwares. So we engage, so we have a complete, it's not business, but it is innovation. So we have an innovation wing. We identify startups which are already existing. We give them certain projects. Some of them who are able to make the things forward, we fund them. And if it is viable, we acquire them. So we look at the startups as our biggest growth engine in country, because they give us innovation which no one else can give at that cost, at that speed, and that reliability of standards which these startups in the country can give back to us. So when I look at all these three factors, although in IT field, there are a lot of such activities which we are doing. In some kind of product development, there are a lot of activities which we are doing with startups. These are two areas. Now, the time is for us to expand beyond and get into IIoT space. So we are also looking at people who can give low-cost connectivities. We are working with people who can get the data collected, the data communicated, and the day is not far. It's coming in. Like when we talk about trusting the data, the trust of blockchain, we are looking at startups who have developed a process chain with the blockchain technologies. So we we have to look one step further. And I generally believe in a few things, Mr. Shivaraman, that if we think that this can be done in a country like India, that technology is already obsolete. Someone has done it. So we have to walk faster than what we can think. And that is where we look at startups very aggressively. I will have multiple examples, but because of NDAs, we can't name many of those. But there are multiple product developments and activities of our innovation happening by startups.
Okay. Thank you, Minu. I think we are coming to an end of a session. It's already 3. I just thought I'll sum it up. Major thing that I've heard. We heard that from Dr. Hutta. Yeah, the academia is changing. They are trying to balance themselves, but they are still starved for access to the funds or the industry issues that needs to get addressed. And other way around, we hear from the startup community. What we get most of the incubation centers are physical spaces, but we need to have a virtual space on mind, share, process, everything. Multi competency across. But very important thing is that, can we enhance access to the set of technologies that already exist in the educational institutions that can become viable to be used for them. What we hear from Minu is that, yeah, we have funds, we just need to have a commercially viable ideas coming to us, we'll be happy to fund.
Absolutely.
So the question for us as a DSCI and MIT is that how do we play a effective facilitator role on a continuous basis? It is $1 million question. I hope we all will collectively find an answer to it. Over to you, Shwani.
Thank you so much, panelists, for the wonderful session. I must say that it was really, really nice. I don't want to end this session actually. The conversation was so wonderful, and I think this panel was the perfect blend of academia, industry, and startup. This session of cyber collaboration, industry, startup, and academia, we had a great discussion on how academia, industry, and startup and government working together is crucial, and how it will bring value to the cybersecurity capabilities in India. Thank you so much, audience, for your massive response to the Cybersecurity R&D show. Our attendees can use hashtag CSRND Roadshow and hashtag National COE to share their thoughts around the initiative on social media using, and do not forget to tag DSCI. Please keep visiting the exhibition hall to have enriched R&D experience in cybersecurity. Please log in to Audi1 for special keynote address on India Cybersecurity R&D by Mr. Ajay Shawnee, Secretary MIT. Thank you so much, wonderful panelists. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all.